tell you what the bill is about. It's not about fiction. It's not about nonfiction. It's not about novels. It's not about comics. It's not about textbooks. And it's not about public libraries. You say, well, what is this bill about? It's about exposing children to sexual images and concepts that really are morally wrong. And it's a shame that I even have to say that in 2025, but I do, because there are people that want to expose your children in public school libraries to sexual images and concepts that are just deplorable and morally wrong. Throughout American history, we have generally agreed that a child's innocence must be protected, and that early sexualization of children is harmful. Recent polling shows us that parents still agree with this. 69% of parents believe that books containing pornography should not be present in high school libraries. Now that number jumps to 79% of parents believe this when it's middle school libraries, and that number jumps even higher to 85% when it's elementary school libraries. Now you say, why is that? Because parents understand this truth. Once children view pornographic images, they never can erase them from their mind. And parents also understand this as well. Often, early exposure to pornographic images open children up to being groomed by predators. So that's why we came together, all of our legislative friends, and we said we got to do something to stop this from happening in our school libraries here in North Carolina. So that's what House Bill 636 is all about. I'm so grateful for all of our legislative colleagues, and literally we have been working on this for months and knocking around ideas, and every one of them is going to come and share a little bit of how we work together. Pastor John is going to come in a moment and share. He and I had this conversation over a year and a half ago about what we can do to fix this problem in North Carolina. And then these other ladies have been working tirelessly across our state to help out our parents in what they want done. So, Ms. Representative Bacham, come and share.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As a legislator, I take this responsibility to serve our students and our family seriously. But as a mom, this bill hits even closer to home. HB 636 is about creating a thoughtful process to make sure the material available in our public schools library are appropriate for ages and development stages of the children who will be reading them. I'm going to be perfectly honest here. This isn't about politics, and it certainly isn't about banning books. It's about working together, parents, educators, and community members, to ensure our schools are safe, respectful learning environments. Most parents aren't asking control over every child reads. They just want to be involved and informed when it comes to their own child. We already have a process in place of reviewing like curriculum, class movies, and other instructional material. It makes sense that we'd apply the similar care when it comes to what our shelves in our school libraries have. HB 636 helps provide a clear and respectful review process. As a mom, I believe parents should be seen as partners in education, not outsiders. This bill gives them a seat at the table while still leaving decisions in the hands of balanced local communities that include educators. I believe in classrooms that spark imagination and meaningful learning while also honoring the role of families in shaping what's appropriate. I'm proud to support HB 636 because it reflects the commitment to both. Thank you.
My name is David Willis. I represent Western Union County, District 68. As a parent of 3 children that are school age that have gone through the public schools in North Carolina, I'm proud to stand here and support HB 636. We've gotten a ton of emails in the past week about this bill, and to some of those who are sending the messages and asking us to trust our schools, to rely on them. They know better than parents. Let me express my sincere respect for our schools, for our teachers, for the hardworking folks that show up every day to teach, to nurture, to love our kids, to help them learn and to grow. But that does not mean I abdicate my responsibility as a parent. I do not pass you the baton of morality when it comes to what we teach and educate and expose our children to in the public school system. You do not have that right. You do not have that ability. Half of our kids today in grades K through 8 aren't on reading level. Well, why are we here talking about books that they shouldn't be reading, books they can't read in the first place? We've got books that have no right being in the K-5, 6 through 8, or 9 through 12 school districts, school systems across this state. We need to be educating these kids on the basics of reading and writing, mathematics, and all of the things that they're going to need to hold a career afterwards. The morality that we believe in as parents is incumbent upon us as parents to teach those children and to help them understand that at home. Whatever that may be, whatever your background, whatever your religion, whatever your ethnicity, whatever your race, gender, whatever you want to teach at home in terms of your morality, that's your responsibility and your right to teach as a parent. We do not abdicate that to the schools. And 636, as Representative Balcom and Representative Jackson mentioned, is not an attack on schools. It's not an attack on libraries. What we're talking about, and you can see to the table to the left of me, and they'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, are removal of pornographic and vulgar materials that should not be exposed to these young children. If I were to pick up one of these books and walk across the street to the Bicentennial Plaza and sit down while a group of school kids on one of their daily tours is out there and began to read aloud from one of these books, it would not take very long for someone to report me and for me to likely be arrested for contributing to the indecency of a minor. I've talked to a number of DAs, a number of police officers in different sections of the state, and it would not take very long for you to sit down and expose children to this content as an adult and be arrested. Then how on earth is it okay for this to be in the libraries of our children? There is no place for this kind of content. There is no value in this material. This is not teaching about the history of America. This is not teaching about how we progress as a society. This is not teaching how we move forward, ideas that are going to help folks be gainfully employed, to get out of poverty, to be able to do what they want to do with their lives after school. This is targeting our children with inappropriate materials, and it needs to stop. HB 636 will put together the avenues in which we do that. We'll bring our parents and other experts to the table to be able to review these books and approve what goes into our classroom. It's time for the adults to stand up and to begin to protect our children. Thank you.
Brian Biggs, I represent District 70 in Randolph County. As we move forward with this bill, like my colleague said, it's not about banning books. It's about a partnership with our schools, because what I've noticed with a lot of schools, as we come up and we let them know about books and things like this that are having filth and their commentary and pictures and things like that, most school boards and school board superintendents are not always aware of the content, or that the books are actually in their libraries. And what I've seen from a lot of schools is once they are informed that these books are in their libraries, they take steps with their committees to remove them. So it's not just we're coming at you, we're going to be a partnership with you. There's going to be committees, there's going to be a process to remove these books and get them out, because as me and Pastor John was talking, a lot of times they have to be brought to the light, and I think we need to do that. I think that we need to make sure that we're focusing on student outcomes, not indoctrination. We want to make sure our math, science, and our reading is at the forefront and the focus of our concerns, and not focused on indoctrinating. A lot of times you have secular progressives that they have an agenda and they're wanting to move to outcomes that they're looking for. And we want to get away from that. We want to get back to the basics. We want to partner with parents. And as Representative Balcom said, you show me a school that has a lot of parental involvement, I'll show you a great school. You show me a school that exiles their parents and does not have parental involvement, you usually have issues. The more parental involvement, just like we did with the Parent Bill of Rights, the greater and the better the outcome for our students.
Hi, I'm Janet Peterson. I'm with the PavementEducationProject.org. We're a nonpartisan, nonprofit team of volunteers from across the state. As members of the Protect Child Health Coalition, we connected with other groups around the country, including our partner, RatedBooks.org, and we use a content rating scale to evaluate books. Both 4s and 5s are rated adult only and show sexual organs in a state of arousal, obscene references to sexual activities, and with level 5 referencing aberrant or deviant sexual behavior, such as sexual assault or sadomasochistic abuse, just to name a few. As for level 3s, young adult rated books need parent approval, as they can include rape, excessive profanity, and reference a variety of sexual activities. Middle and high school students throughout our state have plenty of these 3s, 4s, and 5s. Our team searches online school library catalogs for over 400 book titles. And on our website, we show 47 school districts and over 1,400 schools. A sister organization, TakeBackTheClassroom.com, went live last week. Using their list of 320 titles, they found over 38,000 copies of harmful and age-inappropriate books in 104 of the 115 North Carolina public school districts. Our organization and others search the Follett system used by public schools to manage their library collections and circulation and inventory. We're talking about erotic fiction, how-to books, and hardcore kink. Children are vulnerable. Go to our website at pavementeducationproject.org to watch Megan's story, a teen addicted to obscenity and pornography that began by reading the books available in her school library. Follow us on Twitter as we feature specific books and share stories of individuals who felt harmed by the content found in school libraries. We would like to see this bill, HB 636, become law.
My name is John Amanchukwu, founder of iknowgod.us, and today we're not here simply to talk about indoctrination, although these books do indoctrinate. We're not here to simply talk about grooming, although these books do groom. But there's another term that we need to bring to light, and that is the term called mental rape. I call this kind of content and material mental rape because it assaults the soul, it stains the brain, and it robs children of their innocence. And once a child has caught a glimpse of these pornographic materials, they will never be able to unsee what they have seen. I had a conversation with a gentleman before while flying to a school board meeting. And he told me when he found out that he was homosexual. He said at the age of 9, when he watched porn on a video, for some reason or another, he was more attracted to the men than he was the women. And we all know that the human brain doesn't fully develop until the age of 25. What's the point? He should have never had access to see that content and or material in the first place. In 2021, the American Library Association Office for Intellectual Freedom reported that 1,597 books were found to be problematic by parents. And 8 out of 10 of these books were flagged due to sexual graphic content and the indoctrination of LGBTQIA+ ideologies. A 2017 report by the U.S. Department of Education estimated that nearly 1 in 10 students is subjected to some form of adult sexual misconduct from school officials or teachers during their K-12 academic career. To put that into perspective, there are roughly 50 million kids in America's public schools. This means that nearly 5 million children will experience some form of adult sexual misconduct before they graduate from high school. This content makes it easy for predators to prey on children. This book is available in school districts all around this state. And it says on page 118, it gives children the instructions on how to insert sexual toys into their body. I'll also say that this is the fruit of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and pushing Marxist atheist ideologies upon children. Not only in this book, Let's Talk About It, do we see this? But we also see in this book here, Queer, the Ultimate LGBTQ Guide for Teens, that this book explicitly details and shows children how to perform heterosexual sex and homosexual sex. This is not wholesome. This does not equate to a sound basic education. This is mental rape. And in my closing, there are three kinds of people when it comes to this kind of content. You have punks, you have perverts, and you have protectors. Punks say that I don't want to touch this issue because of my political persuasion. I don't want to offend my party, be it left or right. So therefore, they say nothing and they take the position of apathy. And then you have perverts who want to project their own youthful lust upon children. And so they become activists themselves. And then you have protectors. And these are the individuals who are willing to risk it all, even their reputation, to make sure that children are protected. This bill is about protecting children. And isn't that important to parents in North Carolina? God bless you.
Good morning. I'm Joseph Backholm with the NC Values Coalition. And this bill really is about school safety. Now, everyone would agree that if there was a threat to a child's physical safety, that everyone would agree it should be addressed immediately. But threats to mental and emotional health can be just as serious, and that's what this bill addresses. HB 636 meets the expectations that parents have always had for their children's school environment by helping local schools identify and remove threats to a child's innocence, development, and emotional well-being. Now, there are some undoubtedly who claim that these threats are imaginary. But the story of Megan, a teenager from Utah that Janet referenced a moment ago, illustrates exactly the kind of threat that we're dealing with here. And she tells the story of being a voracious reader in elementary school and when she came across content from her school library that graphically described sexual activity. Once she reached middle school, the library had even more explicit content. And Megan described what's next as a real addiction, which led to social and familial isolation, loneliness, depression, and suicidality. And you can find her story at Cash Lighthouse Project on YouTube or other places. Her story is not, unfortunately, uncommon. It illustrates how you move through the path of innocence to real challenges based on what it is that your mind has been exposed to. And the earlier inappropriate exposure happens, the more problematic it is. The state legislature in North Carolina recently recognized the importance of protecting young children from accessing explicit material when it passed age verification for pornography access. The legislation that we're discussing today, HB 636, is perfectly consistent with those goals by ensuring that access to explicit material will not happen in a school library. Protecting a child's innocence is one of the most important things a school can do. Parents have every right to expect that their schools will create an environment that protects their child's innocence rather than threatens it. Thank you.
We'll take a couple of questions. Yes, sir.
Can you speak a little bit to the review process that this bill sets out that the superintendent's going to be in charge in, and any sense for how many library materials are coming in that the school district would now be required to review for all these criteria listed here?
Yes, so the review panel is made up of 10 parents and 10, the review panel is 10 people on that, 5 parents and 5 school personnel. They have 1 year to review the existing books, and they will go to reviewing the new books coming in when the when it takes effect, and they have 60 days, and they make the recommendation to the school board. School board actually has the final say on it, but they make the recommendation to the school board.
The terminology that they're reviewing is based on whether it's pervasively vulgar. Is there a definition for that? Is it sort of I know it when I see it as a parent when you review a particular title?
That is, that's Supreme Court language, and so that's why we get that. And so, I mean, I can give you that, but it's state statute 14190.13, and it's pretty graphic. So this is not just some fly-by-night thing. And know that somebody says, are you just, you're going to ban Romeo and Juliet? No, we don't want gross filth in our school libraries. And so what we are doing is banning gross filth, according to state statute.
Doesn't this go a little bit beyond the sort of filth issue when you're saying it's got to meet high standards and literary quality? I know there's a lot of learning to read books in school libraries that are probably not very literary and really great, but they convince kids to try their hand at reading, and I don't know how much of that potentially gets caught up in this list of criteria that the review panel is going to look at.
This is about one thing: removing pornography and sexual images. All of that is already in there, and you guys are welcome to comment on anything. Any other questions?
Representative, the poll numbers that you gave earlier in your remarks, can you just say where you got that information from?
That is from Journal of Family Studies, 2019.
The titles and books that you have on the table to your left, are those titles in public schools right now in North Carolina?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
And we can give you a list of that if you like.
Yeah, and on that, if I could just say, we'd invite you to come up and take explicit pictures of the explicit pictures, and let's see if your editors and your media platform allow you to publish that for the public to see, because this isn't something that we're hiding behind. This is here. This is clear. This isn't imaginative. This isn't made up. This isn't Blue's Clues or Pete the Cat or any of the other Dr. Seuss things or anything that we can go for Scholastic and look at children learning to read or get excited about being lifelong learners. As we said earlier, I mean, 50% of our kids aren't even on grade level for reading by the end of third grade. Why are these books then present? There's an ulterior motive for that, and these books need to be removed. And I challenge you to publish pictures and video, whatever you can, of this and show the public what we're actually talking about. Thank you.
Can I respond to your question earlier? Most of these books are in middle and high schools. Most of the books are in middle and high schools. Occasionally we will find them in elementary schools. It's always a surprise. But there's a different kind of book that's showing up in elementary schools that's problematic, but this is huge. It's huge in all middle and high schools. I have not seen a middle or high school that we have researched that didn't have these books.
The process with these, you mentioned you have a list that you've generated of books that are out there and that sort of fit this criteria. Is that sort of the starting point for the review panels that this bill sets up to sort of go through and say, do you have one of these 40 or 400 books, or however many it is, and then go from there, rather than going, I've got to read every single book that's in my kid's school library to see if there's something like this in there?
We did not consult with them about the bill that they were writing. Our efforts with our group was to educate parents, to let parents know that this is what's out there and this is what kids are reading. I've seen young people reading it. So, you know, we very much support this. This is a huge problem. We do have a rating scale that we use to evaluate the books. We think books that are 3s, 4s, and 5s need to be evaluated. And what you're going to find is that books that might rate a 3 are not appropriate in a middle school. They might be okay in a senior high school English class, but they're certainly not appropriate for a 13 or 14-year-old or even an 11-year-old that goes to middle school.
The way the legislation will actually work, the State Board of Education will maintain a publicly accessible database of library media that have been rejected, and that will be updated annually, so that will be available. The public school units are required to adopt policies for selecting media and including the process of approval as well as rejection, and then that 10-member committee that I mentioned. And then they have 60 days to review the material.
Yes, sir.
You asked a question earlier about pervasively vulgar. Let me just ask, if someone were to hand to one of your children a book for Christmas, say this book, and you open this book and you went to page 166, and you see on page 166 it begins to talk about how to properly do anal sex, what would you call that?
I think that would be sort of clearly within that realm of vulgar, but
what
there may be other things that are in a
is
gray
that
area, that's what I'm asking.
would that be pornographic?
Probably.
Yes, and to go further, it says on page 166 that the anus has a lot of bacteria that when spread elsewhere can cause lots of problems. If you're going to use a sex toy for anal penetration, be sure to use one made of silicone, because as long as it doesn't have electrical components, it can be easily cleaned and disinfected. Just boil it for 5 minutes or run it through the dishwasher. This is the kind of content that this bill is about. It's not about book banning. At the end of the day, we're trying to get these books out of circulation in the public school system and away from children. Pervasively vulgar is when a book is vulgar through and through in more than one area. And this book, just as well as many of these books right here, are books that hold up to that standard. And all we're saying as concerned citizens, as parents, as fathers, as mothers, as individuals who represent the faith community, as pastors, what we're saying is this is unacceptable, and that we demand that these books be removed and that children be protected. And there was a time in this country where these things were just common sense. In the same manner that a child goes through the public school system and they just can't type in their favorite porn site because they have guardrails on the internet, the same thing should take place when it comes to the library. Because who are we supposed to be protecting? The least of these, our children.
Representative, this bill talks about an ongoing process. How often would a title need to be re-reviewed if it came up for a review? I mean, can you just specify that a little bit, please?
I think that would go back to the local school board. And this, just like all of our legislation, we try to give the power back to the local school board. Once they have approved it, my assumption would be that it would be approved, but we are giving the power back to the local school board. If anybody else wants to comment on that. We're going to listen to legal counsel on this. You want to comment?
Hi, I'm Mary Suma, General Counsel for NC Values. There's a process in the bill. Parents have to get 10 letters of objection where if there's a book that's been missed, they have the opportunity to have those 10 letters of objection submitted to this library review committee. And that library review committee will make a determination. The letters, as well as their recommendation, will be submitted to the board, the local Board of Education. They will make a determination whether to remove the book or not. So there's a process, an ongoing process in place to catch books that have not been removed or books that need to be reviewed again. And it initiates with the parents.
It requires 10 letters. Great. Thank you so much.